Okay, it's time for the writing vlog, video log, blog, video blog, log, slog. For this week, for a week, for the week, it feels like it's been about a week. It hasn't. Has it been a week? It's been about a week's worth of writing, and that's good enough. And what I mean by that is the experience, the slightly subjective experience inside my head tells me that I've made about the amount of progress that I might make in a week of writing lately, which isn't much. I don't feel like a very successful writer at the moment, and I'll go on to why in a moment. Before first telling you that this video blog will also be about the one weird tip of writing. The one weird tip. And I think it's a good tip. But let's save that. Let's have a bit of suspense. I have written about 1,000 words for the piece that I am trying to make some progress with. They are 1,000 new words. That might sound like a lot to some people, or maybe not a lot to others. What do I mean by 1,000 words? I mean 1,000 new words that I haven't been, that's entirely original, that isn't related to the 6,000 words worth of notes I mentioned before. And it doesn't feel like much to me, because to me 1,000 words can be a casual, short evening's worth of writing. So by volume, it doesn't feel like much. Also in terms of the quality of it, as I was writing it, like I knew it was something where I'm going to go back and look at this later and I'm going to change it, and it's not fantastic. And in terms of inspiration, it came slowly and it was difficult. So it doesn't feel great in volume, it doesn't feel great in quality, and it doesn't feel great in inspiration. And the inspiration thing with me, I've done enough writing at this point in my life that I know when I'm immediately very excited about something, when I'm really jazzed about it, and when I'm going through the motions. And this was a very going through the motions thing, and that doesn't mean that this is bad, but it means that I am making slow progress and I will have to revise and rework things later, which is not where I want to be. I want to be at a point where I feel like I'm looking at all of these notes from above, like from a bird's eye view, from an aerial perspective. And I can say, like, this goes here, this is good, this works here, this is how. This right now is all like a jigsaw puzzle to me, this piece of writing. And I have some of the pieces, and I have no picture. So I know like things are going to link together and they're going to make something, but I don't quite know what's missing, and I don't know quite how things go together. What I've written, or what I've been working on this week, is potentially a start, because I've never had a good start for this piece. And by start, I'm sorry, I mean the stuff at the top, like the first paragraphs that you will read. You know, the equivalent of an opening chapter. Great, wonderful. So here's the thing. Start is a concept that means less and less to me the more that I'm a writer. And that's been helpful. When I started writing for money when I was 21 years old, I was doing mostly shorter form pieces, because I was doing like magazine writing and magazine journalism. And occasionally I might do something that might be like several thousand pieces long, spread across many pages in a magazine. But often, and this was a good lesson to learn, often I was doing like 450 word pieces that were one page, and I might do a bunch of those in like a couple of different magazines each month, and that's great. And it's good, because learning to write something concise, knowing that you've only got 450 words to maybe describe something that might have quite a lot to it, is good. It's a good lesson for a writer, to be concise, to get to the point, and to try and be imaginative and creative within restraints, within limits. And I still think that's things that writers should do all the time. But usually you know what the start and the end is. Not always, but definitely when you're working on a larger piece of work, and for any larger pieces of work I've done, starting at the start, I don't think that's really the key. I think if you have an idea for something and you are stuck because you don't know how to begin it, you don't have to begin it. I think you can land in the middle. I think if you have a point or a conclusion that you're trying to work towards, you can write that conclusion first and try and work backward from that. That doesn't mean that you won't change any or all of your work later, because by God, I hope you are going to edit things. But for me, the whole writing process now, as the writer I am now in my life, it's not linear. It stopped being linear a while ago. For anything long form I'm doing, it's like, I think what I'm going to do next and how I'm going to try and be more inspired about this piece of work is I'm just going to write things that I know are going to go in the middle. And I don't know where they're going to go in the middle, and I'm going to move them all around. And this is what I've done with a few other pieces of work I've done over the last 3 or 4 years, is I've just had to, if I'm sometimes recounting something that is a memory that's in a linear order, and I want to tell a sort of a linear narrative about my life, it has been easier for me to just start at point A and then write point B and then write point C. And then when I edit, I will bring out some of the familiar themes and trim things down and, you know, remember to refer back to things or refresh the reader's memory or elaborate upon some things. But that's the only times I've really done that. Otherwise, I'll sit down and I'll start writing something and it'll be like, this is the bit that's actually going to appear halfway through. It's just the bit I'm thinking about most now. And if you imagine the writing that you're doing, that scared me. I thought, I'll have some written work behind me. It'll make me look like a writer. You can't read it anyway. If you imagine like you're working on a canvas, where do you start? Like if you're a painter painting something, do you start with a central figure? Maybe you do, and you build out from there. Maybe you start with background details. Maybe you start with, I don't know, a particular piece of furniture. Maybe you start with one person's expression. Maybe you draw the figures, but then you draw the faces and the expressions later. I don't know, like physically where on the canvas you would start and how you would move out from that. And then I don't know how you would fill in those details. And I imagine for each piece of work, it's different. And that's the analogy that I'm trying to get trying to get across here. Here's my one weird tip is, if you think you have to start at the start with the opening paragraph, you don't, and you never did. And if there's something you're really jazzed about explaining, when I was young, one of the stories I tried to write, I absolutely just got way too excited, and I got to what was supposed to be like sort of the big conclusion or the big ranty bit very early on. And then I abandoned that story, and I don't regret doing that. We all abandon pieces of work. But what I should have done, and what I know now, and what I learned from that experience of failure and abandonment, is that needed to be in there. That element needed to be in the story because it was really important to me. It just didn't need to exist right at the start. Maybe it needed to exist at the start of my writing experience. But I could write that, put it in the final quarter of the story or the final 2/3, and then fill backwards and fill forwards a little bit. And then perhaps I could write something that comes in the first third, and then I need to find something to bridge one or two places, and all of this is okay. And that's what I'm going to try and do here. I don't know if this will work. And the 1,000 words that I've just added to my pile of other words, I don't know where that's going to go. Will it remain at the start? Will it get shifted around a bit? I think it remains near the start, but is it the start? I don't know. There you go. There's another writing vlog for you, summarizing what's happened in the last week. I don't feel like a good writer. It's been a difficult time to write stuff, but hopefully my explanation of things has still got some merit. It certainly reminded me, as I've gone through it, that there's more than one way to, I don't want to say skin a cat, don't say skin a cat. There's more than one way to... There's more than one approach. Yeah.